Well, welcome everybody to the online program for the alumni of the Sunshine Coast Health Center here in Powell River, BC. And we've been talking about famous scientific treatments for addiction based on scientific theories. So depending on what the theory of the addiction is, then you base the treatment on it. So one of the theories about the addiction, and one of the quite famous ones, is the idea that addicts become what they say conditioned to use drugs. Something will happen in the environment around them. Maybe they'll get into an argument, or they'll be sitting in a bar. It could be any number of things, but something will trigger them to use the drugs. Maybe this, if you're in the bar, maybe it's the noise, the smells, just the general atmosphere. But these triggers are the same as Pavlov and his dogs, right? They can be unconscious. That they will simply happen. That a person will link the drug use with something. Could be a smell, could be a sound, could be music. Famous one, sex, of course. But any number of things can trigger the cravings leading to drug use. So then the idea is, well, let's knock out these things that are triggering, and let's put in some new techniques so that the addict doesn't instantly, oh, I'm triggered, and go get the drugs. Okay. So one of the more famous ones, it's actually not used that often around the world, but it's considered one of the better ones. It's something called the community reinforcement approach. And in this, what they do is that they will reward the client if the client, for example, tests negative on a drug test. So in some cases, they actually give them money. So if you produce a negative drug test, they give you a few bucks. Or believe it or not, some places give you a little gold star, which apparently works just as good as the money. So the idea then is, again, to reward people so we're going to condition them into this new behavior is the general idea behind it. So as I'm in recovery and I will be rewarded for this. So then I will get the sense of, I'll get conditioned to recovery, put it that way. Other little slicker operations. I'm thinking of, for example, Alan Marlett's work, who is probably the guru of relapse prevention. He says, well, it's a little trickier. It's not just the environment doing things. There's the mind. Human beings have a mind, so they're making sense of things in certain ways. So what we have to do is help these people make sense of things in a new way so that, they won't be just triggered by these environmental cues, right? So Marlett's work, he poses these certain risk situations. Some of them can be like up front and in your face, like, oh, I know, you're sitting in a bar. That might be the most obvious one. But they can also be subtle. Maybe I'm living a stress-filled life, or maybe I'm going to go test myself, to see how good my recovery is. Something along that line. So there are these different kinds of triggering. So Marlett's program is to help you become aware of this and figure out techniques and how to deal with this kind of stuff, right? So that's a little different one. And there's some slicker ones too. A more recent one is called Acceptance and Committment Theory, which the essential idea behind that is that addicts have this desperate need to control things. So if I get a craving, oh, I got to control it. And a lot of this brings in this stuff called mindful meditation, in which you just learn to accept that these cravings come in and go out, and nothing to get panic about. So I have to make a commitment to an acceptance that I'm simply going to have these feelings, and then I will process this, and so the cravings don't become a big issue anymore. Okay. Anyway, those are very brief. That's a Reader's Digest version of these. But anyway, various techniques based on this idea of the conditioning, and also a little slicker version that there's also a thinking part to do with it. Anyway, well, I'll be back next week with another of the mainstream therapies based on these very famous scientific theories of addiction.